Well, Steve, thanks for joining us on the Golf Show. You've decided that 2014 will be your last year full-time with Adam Scott. Why now?
Well, I think it's my 36th year of continuous caddying, so 36 is a number that's sort of synonymous with the golf. So, but I've just turned 50, and I just thought it's the right time. I've not had enough of the job, but I've certainly had enough of the travelling. So, at the end of this year, I might carry on a part-time basis or just quit altogether. We'll just decide that at the end of the year.
You'll put that offer to Adam some stage this year and discuss whether he wants to have you on a part-time basis?
Yeah, Adam knows my intentions. He knows that 2014 will be my last year of doing it full-time, so he knows that if I'm going to carry on in 2015, it'll be on a limited basis. So we're just really focusing on trying to have the best year we can have in 2014, and then we'll discuss at the end of the season.
What do you think you can achieve with him in 2014?
Well, the ultimate goal is to win another major. That's exactly what we're focusing on. That's what the whole year's been planned to put out to do. So it's a great target, so really looking forward to it.
He made that move a couple of years ago to really focus on the majors. Obviously, that's what careers are remembered by. What have you noticed about him and the way he prepares for majors, and does it come into your thinking as well?
Well, it's not so much, it's just been a change of schedule to try and peak for one of those 4 tournaments, or try and peak for all 4 of those tournaments. So that's what you've got to do. If you're playing a lot of golf and you're not scheduling yourself properly, it's hard to peak for those ones. So he's done a great job of that the last 2 years. Obviously, he's had the leading stroke average, or the overall score from the 4 majors combined 2 years in a row, which is a great effort, including a win. So this year's no different. The scheduling is all about trying to win one of those 4 tournaments. So that's the goal this year.
Obviously, the Masters is always at Augusta, but there's other courses that vary. Do you go there with Adam when he goes for his practice rounds as well? Is that part of the planning that you're there as well, or does he go and do his own thing?
Yeah, some of the ones, it just depends what part of the world I'm in and so forth. But, there's not too many courses that I haven't caddied on. So, it's on a week-to-week sort of thing, or, different tournament. But, yeah, certainly it's always an advantage to play some of the practice rounds prior to the actual week of the tournament, when there's so much activity going on and practice rounds are slow and long and so forth. So if you can get to some of these venues, on weeks leading up to it, it's quite an advantage.
You've already mentioned the win last year at Augusta. Take us through your memories of it and how special it was on that 10th green.
It's funny how some things come into your head, and that's one of the things I always, pride myself on, if you like, that when you get an instinct that comes into the head, you've got to go with it. And as soon as he hit his second shot, it was obviously a very good shot, and it was up towards the back of the green. I knew walking down there that he's never had that putt before, because it's a very difficult hole location to get the ball pin high to, because obviously if you're 3 or 4 metres past that flag, it runs back down to the azaleas. You've got no shot. So as we were walking up there, he asked me to read the putt, and of course he read it and said, I think it's a cup out to the right. And I said, that's not even close. It's a cup, it's 2, maybe 2 and a bit cups out to the right. It breaks a lot more than it looks, this putt. So, obviously it was special.
There it is! Adam Scott, a life changer.
You could tell Adam was in tears, and grown men around Australia back here are in tears. What sort of emotion was there with the embrace with Adam after a moment like that? Because that's what you'd built to and what you wanted to achieve with him.
Yeah, well, that was my only goal. Well, not my only goal, but that was my goal when I went to work for Adam. I've always believed in him and thought he was a great player, and somewhat underachieved, I would have said. And, to see him realise a boyhood dream was just, it was great to be part of, to be the first Australian to do it. And it was very interesting for me, because when I finished and I was driving home from the course that night, I wanted to retire right there and then. That was my thing. That's all I wanted to do, was just quit right there and then. But I had quite a few mates back in New Zealand who said that I couldn't do that. I had to carry on, so here we are, still going.
There was another handy putt, of course, on the 72nd green, which we all know as fans watching it from that worm-eye view. You've had Mark O'Meara, Tiger and Vijay Singh all make the putt. Was that Adam's read?
Well, I think that's just a putt that everyone knows. I mean, it's a putt that everybody practices. When you go around and practice rounds and that, you putt to hole locations, generally where most of the hole locations are going to be. So every player practices that putt at some stage during their practice round. So, I mean, it's a putt you probably don't even read. It's one of those putts that you've seen hit so often, yeah.
In the press conference afterwards, he got asked about screaming, "Come on, Aussie," at that point, and he said, I'm not sure Steve would have appreciated that. Do you remember him screaming, "Come on, Aussie"?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But after the come on Aussie, come on Aussie, the first thing I said to Adam was, hey, calm down here. There's a very good chance you're going to be in a playoff. You've got to refocus here, because I could look down the fairway and I could see Cabrera was a long way up that hill there, and I knew he had a short iron, and it's most, I knew he hit it on the green. But obviously hit a miraculous shot in that. But you got to get yourself in that mode that you could be in a playoff. And of course, we were in a playoff, so the celebration was short and sweet on that putt. But yeah, it was good.
The role of the caddy and making sure your players' emotions are right to hit the shot right is something that might fly under a few radars, but you see that as being important?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously when Adam hit that putt, he probably thought he'd won the Masters. And with all respect, he probably could have, 50-50 chance. But you always got to be thinking one step ahead. And my first instinct was when I saw Cabrera in the middle of the fairway that we're in a playoff, that's the way you got to think. As a caddy, you've got to be one step ahead. That's a big difference between playing and caddying right there.
You said with Adam Scott earlier that he was an underachiever before you went and took his bag. What have you had to do in terms of getting into Adam's head to make him achieve? Has it been a process?
I think just, not really a process, but just I'm probably a little bit more intense than he is. And, Adam's a hell of a player and he's got a lot of talent. I'm not, he might have underachieved, not in a career type thing, but underachieved in the major championships for sure. And just a bit of course management, course strategy, and a bit of that, get a bit of that mongrel in you. And things have worked good.
He said that took a little while to come, and he noticed that you wanted to get that mongrel in him. So were there any times along the way when you took him aside after a tournament that he might not have achieved so well and said, look, Adam, here's what I want we've got to do to make this thing work?
Oh, absolutely. I've sat down with him a couple of times and had a couple of candid conversations about how things have got to run and how you got to go about things and what you need to improve on and that. But it's a team thing. One thing I've really enjoyed working with Adam, it's a real team effort. Unlike some of the other players I've worked with, but he's got a coach which is his brother-in-law. He's great to work with. His manager's great, and his father is very much involved in it. And so it's a real team effort. And, it's a very satisfying environment to be in.
And defending at the Masters has got to be the big goal this year. I mean, it's a course that sets up so well for him. What will you do to try and make sure that no stone is unturned for that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the lead up into Augusta is obviously very important, and Adam's taken a good break in January and February to ensure that when he gets there, he's ready. He's only going to play 3 tournaments in February and March leading up to Augusta. So, everything, he's practicing hard. And obviously, it's a big thing when you're defending champion, particularly of your first major, and it is the Masters. So, it's going to be a great fun that week, and he's really looking forward to it, as am I as well.
Take us back to, obviously, the near miss was at Lytham in the British Open, and he got on the bogey train there at the end and couldn't get off, unfortunately, and Ernie Els snuck up on him. When you look back on that one, any regrets down the stretch there?
Probably only one regret there on the 16th hole, the little short par 4. In my head, I knew the second shot was playing a lot shorter than what it actually was. And sometimes, I'll give a yardage, say it's 90 yards, but I'll tell the guy it's 85 yards because I know it's just playing so short. But I haven't done it a lot with Adam. I thought maybe I shouldn't do it, but when I look back, I should have, because he hit a good shot and hit it 30 feet by, which was, from that distance, was a poor shot from 90 yards to hit it. And then he proceeded to 3-putt. But it wasn't as bad a meltdown as what it looks like. That's the thing is, 14 and 15 are 2 of the hardest holes you'll ever find there. And he birdied the 14th hole and had a great drive down the 15th hole. So I didn't actually see it as big a meltdown as what everyone sort of, when I was out there, it didn't feel like it was a big meltdown. The hard holes, it's major championship. The 18th hole's, it's a hell of a hard hole to hit the fairway. So, obviously the second shot on 17 was a poor shot. That was the only shot I would say was a real poor shot. So it didn't actually, I've been worse affected at some golf tournaments than that one. It didn't affect me that.
The first win with Adam, I think, was the Bridgestone in 2011, and you had an interview on the 18th green with David Ferretti and called it the best win of your career. How do you look back on that interview now?
Well, firstly, when you're a caddy, that never happens. And of course, I was unbelievably excited. I'd been through a pretty emotional period and a pretty rough period the preceding 12 so months with the fallout from Tiger.
Hey, I've got to tell you, David, I've been a caddy for 33 years, and that's the best week of my life, and I'm not joking. I'm never, ever going to forget that week. The people here this week have been absolutely unbelievable, and all the support from the people back in New Zealand, including my family, that's the greatest week of my life.
But you know, I obviously never expected someone to come and put a camera or put a microphone in your face when you walk off the 18th green as a caddy. That's never ever happened before, and obviously I was pretty emotional at the time. So, you know, some things you regret, that would be one of them. But yeah, it happened, and you know, that's what happens in the heat of the moment.
It was a tough time in your career. You mentioned it as well. Tiger Woods dumped you, and it wasn't face to face. Has everything been sorted out now?
No, I haven't sorted anything out with him.
Some people were saying that you might have buried the hatchet last year and caught up at a tournament, but that hasn't happened yet.
No, there's been a lot of say and a little bit this, that and the other, but no, the hatchet hasn't been buried.
Do you think it ever can be?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, you know, I haven't had the actual opportunity to sit down with him and iron a few things out, but that's, you know, it'll happen at some stage.
And what's still hurting for you?
Oh, it's just some personal things that, you know, and some difference of opinions of how things went down, you know. He thinks one thing and I think another thing. I mean, I need to sort that out with him.